Maria Chacaranco Martinez from Community Health Workers Coalition, and Dr. Ileana Ponce, also from Community Health Workers Coalition. And I am going to pass the mic to Dr. Music for life. I think you each have a space between. So we're going to start off with Darcy.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Larcy Douglas. I'm a director at an organization based in Seattle called Women Power. We're a voting rights organization. I love this self-introduction of ourselves. So I identify and I am an Asian American, but my heart is a Filipino American woman. I may be 5 foot tall, but I walk into a room like I'm 10 feet tall. I have curly hair and it's pulled back and wearing blouse. I am American with my mom. I was 7 years old. I have a dual language family, and I have 3 kiddos that I love dearly. So all spectrums of womanhood and what it is to be a woman, I often get with that. Love it. Sometimes need to decompress and do the self-care stuff.
Well, good morning, buenos dias. My name is Diana Alvarez Reyes, and I'm the founder and executive director of Latina West, a nonprofit organization in Southwest Washington. It's been around for 12 years. I identify as a third-generation Mexican American that is bilingual. My first language is Spanish, and to this day, I still struggle with the English language because it's so complicated. And I also struggle with the Spanish language because at times it can be challenging. So I say I live in multiple worlds with my bilingualism and my bicultural. And actually, I'm going to take that bicultural back. Being multicultural, so I have to navigate spaces not only within as a Latina Mexican mother, daughter, sister, grandmother, but also navigate predominantly white spaces in our community and in our state and around the country. And so I have to find myself navigating multiple cultures at multiple times and almost at sometimes simultaneously. I am a mother of 4 adult children. I am a grandmother of 5. And my grandchildren range from African American to Mexican, and then Finn. So my grandchildren really represent a very true multicultural rainbow of beauty and language. And so equity is not just
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Choquehuanca. I know that for everybody my last name is very difficult. And when I was child, my friends say, "Oh my goodness, in Peru is igual, very difficult to pronounce Choquehuanca." But I am very proud for that because my last name came from Cusco, Peru. My father was born there. I am very happy to be here. I am from Lima, but I uh, grew up with my parents that came from Cusco and Junín. I am very happy. Thank you, Dr. Ponce, for inviting me in this conference. I work with Dr. Ileana Ponce Gonzalez in Community Health Worker Coalition for Market and Peace. I started in this organization as community health worker, and this is for me a great experience because I can feel close with the people how much they need about the resources, help, support, or somebody heard them. I'm sorry for my English. I know that it's sorry. I know that it's not good, but I'm so very happy to be here because I feel that I represent our communities. I say our communities because we are all the time with them. I am so happy to be here to share with you all that you need to know about them, about their needs, and how we together can help them. Thank
Thank you, Maria, for introducing the community health work coalition for Malta. We got almost 11 years to working with the community. I am a physician, but really, I am a third generation of refugee from my family. The fourth generation has been very difficult in this contact as a physician. I was I do a clinical genetic in Chile. I do not Nicaragua work here. And when I came back to my country, there were situation that has to leave my practice. I work with the minister of health. And when I come into this country, uh, I get very depressed for 2 years. I locked up myself in my room. I put a black spot pen and I cried for 2 years. My mind and my parents coming inside because, I used to have my practice. I was working in this program and I didn't know the language. People treated me very bad. When they see me, when I have the accent, and when I see a Latino, be humiliated, I cry. When I see people very old, like my grandparents, cleaning and mistreating, I cry. I say, what is this? I didn't want to come to America. I represent the refugee people that has to leave the place. We don't want to leave the place. But so when we come, it's very hard. And when I come to this country, and I see how people mistreat Latinos or any other one that has people like that, I say, what is this? This is not what. And it was part of my depression. I said, I lost my patient. When I come in here, I said, I don't want to be a fish. I don't want to be a And for training, one day, when my friend was talking to people, I'm like, I was have a picture because I said, I never worked for the yes. I never wanted to forget. I was so like educated. My family was crying something, they didn't know what to do because I really asked my people with education or mental health, people to do it, you know. And then one day, I said, please somebody help me. I didn't even speak English at that time. I still don't speak English. And I know that. And I am now Daniel Vitalius. I know Daniel Vitalius. And then, I will try. And I say, okay, I like to see. I'm going to go to John Hope. I live in America. And I say, I'm going to go to John Hope and I'm going to start happy pet. Because probably help with some family that is good. All the races, all this discrimination, all this bullshit. So, and then I went there. My professor, she is a big, she passed away. She was the person I interviewed me was the director of the family health. I don't know how I did. And she was very compassionate. She showed my daughter. She said, "Are you sure you want to take a physician of this book?" I said, "No, I don't want a physician. I was my whole patient to see which patient." I don't know. I mean, the divine was rich, And then, what happened? She said, the first thing you have to do is to speak English. Go and take the username and coming back to you to Chile. It was a white person. A white person that worked at public health school. I don't know. That is true. She was very okay. And when I started something to be coming back, I asked her, and she told me, and then she came to become a doctor in public health. And I got waiting for and then I want to say that But between all of these, if we have money, my family was very poor. Here, because when you are migrant, you have to do the digital house. And the way, we're living in one apartment with 5 people. My mom and my dad was like, this is what I cry because I have a big house. The house is in the I have a dream. And then come and hear that and be a dad and see my parents working in the it's a hand when they never work. My mom didn't use it, but she never worked. I said, what is this? And then because I need to work for them, for all the people that are like. And then this is part of my history and we are going to talk about it, but this is one thing that inspired me. 11 years to finding the community that working coalition for migrants and working and refugees. And we are going to talk about all of this. So Maria is one of the refugees, and she said the process, that the long journey we have it to become a many of your ancestors and here. And all of us have a beautiful journey. Many of us forget what our ancestors because, like my colleague Diana said, she's third generation. Then you are the seventh, the 10th generation. Germany, escaping from war. I think that we forget that. And this is what we need to talk about the family, the practical.
So we are going to, actually, since you already got this started, I'm going to let you keep the ball rolling. Because one of the things that I know, if you didn't know, I was organizing this conference. And so there's like 8,000 things that are in my hand, including the notes for this session. Apparently I also didn't need this. But we're going to talk about using diversity as a strategy as well as about, because I know that's so key for work. They have an entire model built on that. So I'm going to let you start a little bit.
Yes. Well, like here, the beautiful thing about human being, because I am genetics, the beautiful thing about human being is how even our hand, our finger, and we always it. And when we was one of them, we understand the value of that. Yesterday, I was watching the TV, what is happening now in Florida, in Miami, with the deportation of all these illegals. I want to tell you because Diana is a witness. My organization, I'm very proud that I work only with 80 or 90% of the women. Those that we call, those that some people that say they are criminal, prostitute, drug dealer. Okay, my organization, I have 203 Latinx migrant and refugees. 80% of them are people with degree in our countries. Maria is a Master in Business Administration with special. My coordinator is a lawyer. I have a many doctor. People tell me doctor here because I graduated from John Hopkins because I became a doctor. When I see in the morning, they deliver 50 children in my country for many years. More experience than many doctors working with all the life. Okay? Then many of these people when they come in happen what happened to them. They cannot speak English, they don't know how to integrate the system that is very complex, still complex for us, because it's still health disparity. Our brother and sister in African America, I always say, how sad is that 2022, young women in Afro-Latina or Afro-American be scared that a child is going to fight somebody that is supposed to protect that entity, which is respectless. We cannot believe this is happening. And enough is enough. This cannot happen. Then people tell me, why did you successful? Why did you pay a community and work it? Because this is the people that nobody wants to go with. This is the people that we believe that they are labeled, like people that have elections. You know, like somebody that was in jail, the job, the songs, the only job they can find is who's weak. And they have to smoke marijuana to dealing with that even they were young and they do something because the society where we live predisposed that. I live in DC, in Maryland, in Washington, and there were places in DC that you can see at this time people selling jobs, people doing prostitution, because the system allowed that. And this is what the children see, and they don't see any escape. And every time, when this happen in the news, they say, oh, African American and Latino people in the school or this or that. If they killing people, they are crazy. They are criminal. But it isn't white people or poor who have a mental disease. Yes. Have you seen that? Oh, he's a veteran of war. Have you asked him what happened with this old African American or Latino or Asian that had communities? We create a monster, the society, because we don't give you opportunity. I wanted to tell you that when we are working with this community, now many of them are working in Washington, POA with Diana. Many of those are at the University of Washington. Many of those are now in Federal Qualified Health Center, like physician, like dentists. In my career, we created 4 dentists. One time, one community health worker came from the department. He was more studying at the University of Washington. I have a oral health, and he tell me, I educate community health worker for los members of the community. Because oral health is a determinant of health. If you have a bad teeth, it's because you are poor, and you know that. Oral health is not for everybody. And then oral health is a in the community. I'm asking, I advocate for that. The best way is to train the community. Because it's preventive. Experimenting. And then this young man came to me and said, yeah, I wanted to be a community health. I said, okay. Because I wanted to be a dentist. And he was from also State. It's a very poor family, migrant family, only a one child for a man with 5 children. And I say, why do you want to be a dentist? I was happy that he had a dream. I say, and he said, because my man. I said, the man, I was sick that the man wanted to be a dentist. Because my man had a beautiful smile. And I said, really, yeah, but she can never. Why? And all the time, and I was sad. And I said, sister, yes, she died of cancer. And then, do you have daddy? No. Who are you? I'm working for 5 years. I am working for the team. He studied at the University of Washington. How now he's a dentist at the hospital. And this is how we can give a chance to this person that can. Don't just a person for this. Okay? Because what every human being is need is an opportunity. Even if you don't have an opportunity to say, thank you, you have to say, encourage them. I have a position that I can make an opportunity. Because with this, we will change. I share my history with many people, and I asked African American women to come because I was a medical officer at NIH, and I worked with Dr. Bunch. This person that was dying here, and I worked for ARD, the Agency for Healthcare Patient and okay? And then they asked me to go with my mom for a long time. And one time, a beautiful African American lady came and said, "I say, what?" They said, "Thank you." I said, "What? What's the doctor?" I was when we come to the school, so I'm living in a school very well. That's the sister I said, we say we said the word and now she was a physician. This is why I keep this title over here, In my 30 minutes, I will be dedicated to the person that is next to me. This is what we can do. Thank you.
Well, I think Dr. Ponce say talk about equity, that this is about uh, I can say everything. I will continue that the example that Dr. Ponce say. Sometimes we have people with degree came from another country, the USA, and equity is to recognize in the people their experience, their knowledge, not their color. The skin don't say everything. 1 month ago, couple months ago, we were talking about a person who say, "Oh, this person is from is Latina, and I believe that this person should be we should pay her less because he's Latina, and that person who is white should be paid more because she's." And you say, what is the difference? The person here has a degree. So that is huge. And if you remember, before you work with another people, right, and they don't do the work that you need, she proved you that she can handle all the information that you need. She made your reports. She made your register. She made everything that other people can do that. And what receive less than the white people. This is equity. Recognize the value of the people for their experience, knowledge, not for the color. And why equity is an explanation? It depends what is that. If your target is people who recognize that you are you want to help, it's our case. We are a non-profit. We can don't say, oh, we are a non-profit, we can help community happiness, but we recognize that people, or separate people, white, black, Latins. If you want to, the equity will be an expectation in your organization, you can practice them. You can show them for the people. And how to do that? Or with the recognition. Thank
Recently, Marcy, just want to talk a little bit about how inclusion is different than engagement. Well, there's already knowledge that's been dropped to the left of me, and it's everything that I 100% agree with our efforts. It's all really rooted down in, and we want to say it's compassion, we want to say it's sympathy, but it's really empathy, because each of these women really recognize that there was a chance given to them. So how do we pay that forward? And so how do we lead into that notion about our heart to say, I'm going to give somebody else this chance, kind of decentering yourself from your own journey to say, how do we include a lot of journeys? Because many of us who come from struggle and who come kind of rose out of that should not be the standard. it is exceptional that we come out of it. It should not be an industry standard that in order to achieve greatness and achieve higher forms and better forms of ourselves should not always be from that grueling of an effort. And so when Leanna earlier said that, when she wanted to find a place that really was able to be an environment that supported this version of herself that she believed was ultimately to be deserved to come into her own skin, why is it that many of us are left scratching that surface and then have to raccoon our way into whatever career that is, forging those opportunities for ourselves? And so when we talk about inclusion, I think, one, it is empathy. We really have to care. And I'm not saying none of us do. It's just how quickly do we default in that care? So when we talk about who makes these decisions, where the power structures are, any institutional organization, there's 3 steps to it. 1, who gets invited into the room? 2, who's sitting at the table? Here's the other next step that really probably falls short from the effort that can totally make magic happen is what kind of dialogue is happening at that time. So if the 4 of us up here were at a table, and I know these wonderful women next to me already have some history, it sounds like, and I'm observing that, right? They're hugging, they're kissing each other. Like, I love it, and it's really cool that they get to be part of a collective that they can experience together. So if they're constantly just having a conversation amongst themselves, but Tiana is not asking me, Larcy, what's your input? Larcy, what do you think? I am left out of that conversation. So when we're at the table and we're recognizing who's in the seat next to us, if 10 minutes has passed and you haven't heard from Deanna, something's up. Something is really up. Is that truly equity? Is that truly diverse thinking if you're not allowing that thought to come out of her head, right? So if I am not at all hearing any words come out of Deanna, then I'm not doing my part to live out that. Ideally and theoretically, we want to live it out, and we can conceptualize the things that need to happen because we're all smart, we're all degreed, and very much careered into the work that we're doing. But we are not taking the time to allow people's voices come out of their heads. We're not hearing them in our ears, and that's not true inclusion. And so a lot of times, and correct me please if I'm also, when I first came here from the Philippines, I had a hard time also learning language with English. And the thing that I recognize within the dual language course is that when they're thinking in their head, so every one of us know that there's a voice in our head that tells us what time it is, what dinner we need to cook, other things that we got to do throughout our day, right? So let me ask you, Deanna, when you're in that voice, is it Spanish or English?
It's on the environment,
Okay.
right? And at times on both languages, it's just how my brain works.
That is gymnastics. That is a jungle gym. Okay. And then for you, what are you thinking? Is Spanish or what? Okay. So if it's Spanish every time, and she has to calculate in her head her own sets of translation. Or for Deanna to be like, okay, which environment am I in? Who am I talking to? Where am I gonna make that impact? It's a lot of mental calculation. So the ability for us to be patient, to hear her rolling R's, and they're so romantic, right? It's just that. It's just as simple as that. Just give people the patience and the care. Take their time. Because when she took her time, when Dr. Fonzie took her time to talk about her story, there was magic in what she did. We get to hear the intensity, the conviction that she decided to take in that situation for that person. And we can extrapolate lessons from that to say, at one point in my life, when did I do it? What did I allow for an opportunity to happen to somebody else? So if you're rooted in that, you're rooted in this idea that you're going to pay moment forward. It doesn't have to be the complete chance, because maybe you're not in the resources to do so or the time, right? It's just, are you able to pay a portion of that forward? That makes that muscle. And every time, just like working out, guilty of this too, it's like if the more you do it, then it becomes a habit. But the second you want it to become a habit, it needs to become second nature to you. Right? Like I can go into my kitchen. If you come over to my house and you say, you know what, Larcy, I crave chili, I'm like, great, I got you, girl. Because I'm constantly looking for ways. And for you saying earlier, it's like you want to have learning opportunities. And so if you're constantly looking for those moments of learning, moments of ways where I can even learn from the person next to me, that's true inclusion. Because every situation you go into, walk away from it like you left it. Right? Small, wonderful. Big, fabulous. Just in your own practice of what that is, that's inclusion. And so when we're thinking about, okay, I'm entering this room, who's at the table, talk to the person to the right. Make sure their thoughts are outside of their head and allow them the time and the patience to get a few words out. And even in that moment of, yes, it's going to take some time, and I get it, DEI work takes a ton of time, but it's long lasting, it's the most impactful, and we've got to do this for decades.
And I think really hearing that it's about creating an environment in which this can create inclusion. An environment where building work is not always visible and it's not always easily measured. It's not assessed easily. Sometimes a lot of stuff you'll never even know the impact of, but it's essential in order to create that. And I think I'm going to segue to that, to Deanna, because we were talking about stakeholders. Because once you've done this kind of work in your own organization, trying to build a culture, how do you bring actually other people along?
I'm just superstars are to the left, like Beyonce says, to the left, superstars right there. So I just really appreciate the opportunity. I am also a learner. At 58, I'm still learning, and it's in that life. I have realized looking at personal life and professional life, always include even as a 4 or 5-year-old, remember that even though I did not is always finding ways to help others and always finding ways to include others at that very young age. And that I give credit to my parents. They instilled in me, and they didn't say it, they demonstrated what is giving back with that. Not in the sense of capital, but in the sense of humanity. What does that look like? As I said earlier, I'm third generation. My father was obviously second generation, but he had dual citizenship. He had Mexican American citizenship because my grandmother gave birth to him in this country, and then she went back to Mexico as a little girl, and no one ever told her she was a U.S. citizen, right? So then, the reason I'm saying this, I will tell you here I'll come full circle, I promise. Then my grandmother realized she was an American citizen, at the age of like 30. My father was already born, and even though my father was born in Mexico, being born to an American citizen automatically leads to a dual citizenship. So fast forward, my father, when he came to this country, he's a boy, he picked strawberries and tomatoes down in San Diego before before Oceanside and Carlsbad and La Jolla were all glitzy and fancy. There were fields out there. So my father was a migrant farmer, and he learned English very quickly. And by the time he was 32 years old, he was self-made in terms of his business, in terms of 2 homes, really the Americans. He paid it forward. Every time someone would come knocking on his business door, he would mentor them. Taking time to mentor someone just like he saw himself in that person. He invested back into people. Then, not only did he invest back into people, but he ensured that these folks then had an opportunity to grow financially, to grow in ways that they wanted to grow. Right? So, equity, diversity, and inclusion, before they were the buzzword that we know now, was part of my life very early on. I had no idea. Nor did my parents, but that was our fundamental practice, at least at home. Moving forward, I then saw an opportunity to also pay it forward. 2008, how many remember we had the economic recession? Thousands and millions of people lost their homes. And in 2008, school districts, just like other sectors of the community and business, were in budget deficits. And what is the first thing that gets cut in the school district budget? Anyone? Bilingual education, extracurricular, enrichment, all of the programs that benefit our children of color, our children who speak another language, our children who live in poverty. Right? Because poverty has no color. So all of that. So I kept seeing programs cut and cut and cut. And that time I was in the K-12 system at the district level, and I was continually advocating. However, how is it that you guys find money to continue to bus kids to state regional events? Okay, but let's call it. So I had enough, and I went, and just like Dr. Leona Ponce, saw an opportunity to create a space for communities to come together and address the disparities of access and reach to higher education. That's how Latino Leadership West was birthed, was out of a response to a crisis, a national crisis. That organization started 12 years ago as a grassroots coalition of community folks who saw and were angered by the disparities that our communities were having to navigate. And so bringing along, I say, community partners or community sectors along. I do not say the word stakeholders, because the word stakeholders, you know the word stakeholders, it is deeply rooted in colonialism. So I do not use that word. So I say community partners, community sectors. So so a handful of us said enough is enough, and we had folks from city council, we had folks from law enforcement, we had folks from the Boys and Girls Club, just a handful, and we came together around this grassroots coalition. How are we going to be responsive to address the inequities and the disparities of access to educational opportunities and pathways, career pathways? The organization then grew into a 501c3, and what we did as an organization unintentionally, because my background, I have no idea how I went about helping grow a nonprofit organization. I am like jack of all trades, master of none. I will figure it out as I go. I'm one of those kids that like I would ride my bike and I would fall and get back up and keep going. And even though my knees were shinned and I busted out my front teeth as a kid, I kept going. Yeah, that was kind of my mindset, and it continues. We just kept our head down as an organization and doing the work. One of the things that we did unintentionally is that we didn't know what we were doing in terms of we centered youth and family voice at the center of the organization, creating equitable opportunities, ensuring that we were inclusive of voices, and also honoring their lived experience of our organization. We were doing this work maybe about 7 years ago, unintentionally. Why? Because of the values that were instilled, that we forward, investing back, having and listening with not only your ears, but our eyes. We listen with our eyes, right? And our heart. And too many times, we forget how to listen, or we choose not to listen. And so, Latino Leadership Northwest, because we unintentionally did this, community partners, community sectors were like, hey, what are y'all doing up there? We want to be part of that. And I'm like, okay, but if you want to be part of this work and you want to be a partner in the work, you also have to, it's a must. You say, don't, I'm sorry, you're doing great work. Thank you very much. But your organization is not demonstrating by action, not by policy, not by procedure, because it's really easy to put the words equity, diversity, and inclusion in policy and procedures. But remember, folks, equity, diversity, and inclusion are livable, actionable words. You don't walk it, you don't talk it, you don't live it, you don't breathe it. It can all live in your handbook, but you are not doing it. So I will just equity, diversity are livable, actionable measures, not measures in context of evaluation or assessments. I'm going to take that out. Equity, diversity, livable, actionable, and measurable by how we help you in.
Okay. So, thank you. One thing that I just, a gem that I think about this discussion. We talked largely about being invited into the room. What I hear from all of you is that your passion has created the organization where you're the ones inviting others to the room. Okay. Right? You guys are now able to hold power where others are seeking you out for that power. How did you shift that narrative? How did your passion create that? I just want to put that out there as a quick question before I go and ask
Absolutely. So let's talk about power, for example. We know generally where it stood in this country, in society, currently, what power structure is. Over the years, that power structure has constantly been kind of a ping pong between, genders, right? And now that power structure is about, the more persons of color that can come into it. And I have had my fair share of rooms where I have been invited into spaces where I am not all invited to conversations. And so I think that's one thing is the very thing that all of us have in common is a certain treatment that happens and how we did not like. And what Deanna was saying earlier is what do we do with that responsibility and our ability to pay that forward? And so that moment when we didn't get invited to the conversation was the moment that did not. So if anything, the people who were in that room who did not engage with us were the ones who got left out of a conversation because you guys hear how powerful our minds are. And so that is a true formula in any situation is you have something to contribute. You may have to think a little bit more, you may have to translate a little bit, to what you're trying to say, but there's a contribution here because of our lived in experience, because our ability to include other people because their stories resonate with us or we see ourselves in that story. And if we anchor ourselves in that, then we will naturally share power. And so when Deanna was talking about we just put our heads down and focus on that work, absolutely, because in that work there was shared power. She may have been in a position to make a decision, but who got included in the ability to execute solutions? It was the people that they wanted to service. It was the families' voices that had some that were included in the decision process of something, right? And so now, yes, people are seeking us because they're seeing the power of diverse thoughts. They're seeing the power of equitable practices. And they're also seeing the power of what happens when we do include a variety of different individuals into a group to collaborate. And what I always say, and Anna knows about this, is to dream and scheme. Because there's so much we could do to better want to vision the society to be. And it's even better when we're committed to practice to build it. And yeah, it's not easy. Some days I question my ability to wake up in the morning and say, well, I really want to get to that 9 o'clock Zoom. And what Leanna was saying earlier is that sometimes you don't know when you're in practice. And sometimes it may be beyond our own mortality. But if you're committed to a moment, to say at some point, I am decentering myself and that this will go beyond me, that is how you push that forward and that eventually an impact is made. And we have to really get away from this idea that impact is happening because we don't know, but at some point down the future, that's when the magic truly happens. And we have to really distance ourselves from really saying to ourselves and kind of in a moment distance ourselves also from the credit of the potentiality of that moment to just do the work. Because we don't know. I'm sure I'm going to make some connections with these women after I leave and think more about what we can do to build out better practices, better habits. I don't know. And if we're constantly in the mindset of being a learner, constantly in the mindset of paying it forward, constantly in the mindset of saying, I just want to do good work, then the results will come naturally.
I can't follow that. I wanted to ask a question to everybody. I wanted to ask you, Karen, how many of you like gardening?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can come over anytime.
Yes, I want to, and it's a very good question. I really like spending time. I like to garden. I am a gardener. And when I do community health work coalition for my family. And I have an experience. One people doing this. I still really love that here because I was 2 years in my life and I couldn't do this. I said, and then I compared the refugee, that is the population, identified my grandfather farm workers, and then, I identified the population. I said, to be inclusive is like, you are a garden, how many would you like compromise? I'm going to tell you, this is the people that need help. If you go to the garden, there are beautiful flowers, it's expensive, you get it. Assessment, not everybody can possess it. Not everybody can possess education. Not everybody has the opportunity that we have. Not everybody has a good heart. What about those young adolescents for $1 and you see and they all there and I say, oh, that's a bad one. I'm supposed to give $1. Then, I bought it. And I'm going to tell you, 50% of them die. No matter how long, no matter, I'm not even thinking about it. But 50% they make it. This is our population. It's difficult to include them, to invite them. Invite to your garden. Everybody have a garden. Even if you don't have garden, you have a garden inside. Invite to beautiful spot, even low. And at least you try it. Because working with people that have been traumatized, it's like, it's like that. And when they go and thinking that maybe you cannot say everything because the damage is too much, but it's difficult. But thinking about all of this that you do, and then you can be confused and thinking that this academic plan, when they grow and they say, I save it. My garden, I put it, because we are deforesting and we live in a beautiful place that not many people live in south. And I put in my garden, it's like the secret place or the place when the plant will be pretty, and it's so beautiful. They seem to look like you put plant in the garden when you want to improve. But thinking that everybody, not only, I'm talking about people that is educated, not because I have classes, it's because there are a lot of white people. I don't know you, I don't know you. And many of you believe that all man and person have good. They don't even know that maybe they have a higher education. But no mean is to dismiss people that doesn't have education. This is the three people because those are those plants that have been forbidden in the culture that nobody watering and feel love and focus. There are many people, that after we work with the plant, and we know there is a connection. We have no exploring subconscious, but all of us are connected. And when something happens, to Larcy, and when something happens to the Miss Maria and Ishmael, this happened to us. Because when we see injustice, we don't feel good. I mean, we feel good because something happened to us. But it's because something happened to us. Then, by creating a better world for our children, or for the future generation, I believe the key is love as it's hard to love. In my tradition, we tell the people, we speak 10 different languages. Tricky, Mixtecos, Hispanic, Man, English, and all of them speak. And all of them speak. In the beginning, when they come, and then they say, I didn't choose, everybody talk with me. And now they love it because everybody asks to learn to live and make power. And this is my side thing. I always like to give example, like garden, like simple. When you see somebody in the homeless, and the addiction. That is a human being that you can be this person. Before we don't know it. Then the time they will talk to me, don't complain or deny what is phones. Because in the end, they are there because us. Because we know in them. You know, complain about no services for these people that is in the street like a human being and thinking that they will serve the daughter, the brother.
Okay, that's interesting. Don't dismiss just based on that positive. That's a critical piece. Are there any questions? I don't know. We lost it. I'll get it. Okay, a couple things. First, about the beginning of the net. Yeah, so like the movie. And so, I'm thinking about what we talked about in terms of, asking for input and have some really practical ideas about, things we can that just make um, make predictable pathways for input so that when we're around the table, I'm going to say, we're going to go around and you know, you can calculate, get to me. I want to hear what I'm going to say instead of, the very culturally white-centered practice of I'm just going to jump in on the process, and that's how leave room for folks who are advancing in their head, who are doing that sort of. And the other idea that we are because we're trying to accomplish a certain amount of work and need more space for. Are there other like really practical things like that? Talk about how we're
Well, first of all, congratulations for being able to identify that. That's the first step to finding solutions, to know that there's an obvious problem, right? So there's that. I think for the most part, you have to really, as an organization, be okay with a few things. One, efficiency, right? Because if you and I were trying to find happy hour location after this, you could be like, oh, look, there's one across the street. We'll invite Anna and then we'll just go together, right? That's easy. We've got something done so quickly. But if I said to everyone in this room, what happy hour location do we all want to go to? How long do you think it'll take us, right? Or even just another example is like if you and I were trying to plan a dinner date, we can get those decisions fairly quickly. Or if I'm going to invite everyone to my house for Thanksgiving, like how much of that is going to require a lot more planning. So we have to be okay with how much efficiency, right, do we want to sacrifice? Because there's a lot of the idea about efficiency. Also, there's a lot to unpack there that is tied to white supremacy, is tied to this perfectionism model, right? But then when we go into a layer of that, see whose voices are immediate in that response. It's usually not people of color, right? So you gotta be okay with that as a team, right? And also this inclusion that we are trying to do a model that includes the diverse thoughts of what brings people into this. So I say this, what you're going to do right now, try it out. Give it a minute before it settles down to whatever it boils to, because you might find something in 3 months versus you gave yourself 2 months to do. So give it some time. And I think you're on the right track to do something. Making it longer, cool. Let's see how it goes. Okay, well that's productive. But then so there's constant gauging and constant compass and GPS throughout all of this, and it's all going to boil down to your people. Is what you guys are okay with. And then you also want to tee it up to say, we're going to try this out. I need some input. And then once that end trial period happens, then you can assess again and say, how did all this work out? Did this, did this checkbox every? Did we lose efficiency? And did we at least have one conversation? So what are you willing to not compromise, because you can harmony into everything. So I think that's one. So just give it some time. You're on the right track. And and then also knowing that you are going to get some pushback, and that's fine. So what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario? And if you're having your team input about how things are going and building along the way, then you don't have to necessarily over design a system, but having a collective effort to build it with your team is so powerful. And yeah, it's going to take a ton more time and effort, but I promise you it is so, so worth it. Yes.
Another way is like doing a survey, and taking the survey is going to evaluate to our policy, and if you have any diverse information or people working with you, that would be very good. Like, for example, how much do you feel? What do you know about? Because some meeting, can be interesting for some people. Should we have a meeting all together? Should we done those meeting outside? Should we bring food? Like, if you want to imagine, and things like that, and there is something in the organization that we can do, like moving the person between the mall, the mall for something extra, and to have those guides that can exist. Sometimes it's not only economic, sometimes employees are there and they think that, and sometimes they can be, for sure, for what you say, I know you have a before, that also works. But creating a space where the employees can see that they
The organization. Yes. Team is very young. I think that this is 8. So this is 42, and I'm the old lady. And so I recognize that we all learn differently, and we process differently. So creating space, conversations or get-togethers where um, uh, think of that you adopt how to process. Our younger generation, I'm just as guilty too. I love my phone, right? So, it's utilizing different kinds of apps. Some folks on my team prefer in the language. Others prefer to write it down, and others are very, very verbal. So, being open to the different ways to learn process is, and this is not, just like you said, this is not immediate. This is long term. If it doesn't work this way, we'll try that way. That's the beauty of it is trial and error and what fits best for your organization.
I think we have time for one more question if the answers are quick. Okay.
Mrs. Smith, I'm with Washington State Microfinance Association. So your wisdom is just really pertinent for right now. I wanted to kind of tease up and quickly that thoughts about measurability. And how do we know that what our work is doing is actually, specifically around funding? And so the balance for me is around trust. And I have so much trust for nonprofits for sure. They're doing extraordinary work. And we have a funder who funds us who says, we need metrics. We need to know that what we're doing is right. So the love from you, functions and how do we navigate that when the nonprofits are serving work that maybe themselves don't have pieces together to measure in the ways that we need to see. So visiting them, listening, talking, that's the anything we could do would be really yes.
Ironically, Latino Leadership Northwest is in that space. The CIPO, the state agency, for and wanted to give the organization funding to be part of COVID response work. The organization, and I'm being very transparent, we did not have a strong enough infrastructure in place to meet the measures that the feds were asking for. So it places an organization in a very compromising situation. So, what I can say as an executive director who have gone through that experience is that funders and state agencies together need to work on and making capital investments into nonprofit organizations to help lift their infrastructure, either create, lift, support the infrastructure in order to have we need to continue to tell stories how federal and state dollars harm and hurt nonprofit organizations. Some unintentionally, because our state and federal friends do not live in this world with us. And I understand they have to adhere certain measures that they have to be those compliances. But we as sit in this room as either a staff, program manager, operation managers, executive directors, whatever our roles are, we need to tell these stories of how state and federal government regulations harm and hurt our organizations. We need to keep telling that story. And we need to not only tell our story, but be proactive in terms of how we could shape and influence policies and systemic changes.
Oh, I made the mistake of choosing the funder and saying, let's be quick. Go ahead. That's on me. This is the ecosystem we all live in. We have the doers and we have the supporters and we have so that's I think the beauty of this universe is that everyone has a part, right? But I want to go back to you really quick, and this is something I learned in this work, is we have to really build teams. And that is so hard sometimes because you have a deadline. You have capital monies that are like going to run out in a month. What do we do with this, right? And you yourself have to come up where you're translating between the people who are like, here's the money to do this thing, to the people who are being impacted and receiving said services, right? And so, but here's the cool thing about that. And I want to go back to you particularly because this is the beauty of how we coexist in a variety of different worlds, right? You get to go into those spaces where the service and the impact is to happen, right? And that's where you want the focus to be. And then you go to the stakeholders or the community advocates, so to speak, that say, well, what's happening over there, right? So you have a dual position to go and translate that for those folks, right? But you also get to model a different mindset about how they can look at this service being rendered or this particular thing being executed, right? So you have this power that you're holding
and also a higher sense of responsibility with that power, right? And that is beautiful, and I just want you to lean into that more, because you can change that narrative. Being a white woman, being in philanthropic spaces where it is very much capitalistic oriented, you get to be the person to say, damn it, I'm not going to stand for this, and you get to model a certain narrative around that. That's what true allyship is right there, folks, right? That is true allyship. Because we need those allyships because we are busy serving our community, because this is where the trust happens, right? But because this system is dominantly white, we gotta have your allyship to be able to say, at some given point, you're gonna listen to Larcy, you're gonna trust Deanna that she's out there dominating her spaces, and all of us here telling our stories to go back to those funders to say, listen, trust me, people, you gotta trust me. I am in a unique position to make sure the impact is made. If you want numbers, I will give it to you, but I'm focused on
Yes.
I'm in good trouble. Good trouble. Good trouble. Yes, you have our full permission to always seek forgiveness and not permission. Okay? If anyone else challenges that, you have our numbers. Yep. Oh, over there. All right, thank you all so much. It's really important, we felt like, for this session to allow you all to get an opportunity to talk to each other on these spaces, because this is why we come in person to conference. In this space, there is someone who has lived any experience that you are dealing with right now in your organization. Your network of people to support you in getting to your organization to that next level is already here right now, listening to you. So we're going to let you have an opportunity to work together to get through to talk about your own challenges. So we have 20 minutes left in this session, a little bit less. If you are interested in continuing this conversation, talking about how do we fund, how do we talk to funders, how do we talk to donors, how do we create ways of making revenue while also standing and living in our values, please join us over there in the patio. If you want to talk about building organizational cultures, how do you engage your key partners, and how do we try to live our values as we not only teach but coach others around? You stay right in your seats over here. You take care of yourselves, use the restroom, do whatever you need to do, support you in that. But as we can all work together, and you choose where you'd like to want to talk to. I'm going to call Keisha forward. She's going to lead our conversation here, and Carrie is going to join me here at the door to get outside. Thank you so much, everyone.
Beloved, we're making a circle up front. Beloved, why don't you sit down to each other, moving your organization forward. We're a beloved people.
Thank you. You know, it's the thing I've learned about my to a life. That's a system, right? And then the thing also is too, I can do all my skills. And they may not work for Christmas, right? I can do for the team. And then you go on and do it on your own. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, yeah. I think it's again, some people have heard the girl, like then you gotta bring it about. Yeah, it's gonna take some time because people like dance to different thinking process and learning process. But I think being aware of that discomfort that top of the room hasn't spoken, that speak up moment, right? And then I think that's even easy for them. Oh no, yeah, no, we're completely serving or coming. I can't tell you how much.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for her stay there. Where you go there? Amazing. No problem. You don't have a time, to do all of this. I know.
I will say, like, because we've not met, but I've known of in Vegas and right before some of the friends from Southwest Washington.
Oh,
So
we need to talk. We need to talk.
email me.
Let's schedule some
And-
time. Yes.
Yeah,
What are you doing for them?
I'm the interim executive director.
Okay.
Together.
Because I'm one of the founding members of the Southwest Washington. Yeah, with Diana Perez.
Yeah. No, I know, right? Like, right? And
Yeah.
some crazy stuff that went on. And we're still, it's been,
We need to unpack.
yeah, I've been just trying to get caught up on stuff since March. I stepped in with them, but they asked me to join in March. A lot.
Yeah.
We can have a confidential conversation.
Yes,
later,
sir.
But yeah,
Yes,
let me know.
sir.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
No, maybe what?
Me too. I
I
have a
have a
board
deadline.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. With the county.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, I have my program manager right now. Probably even
Yes.
texting like, what the fuck?
And she was earlier. No, she was good. Yeah. You can tell her what we did. I didn't hear email address. The story of talking to me in the podcast was that I remember you saying years ago, we need to put the TV.
Or I could just sit and talk. It's not easy to be steward and spit out when you're challenging systems that have good intentions but have really structural problems. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is just being willing to do it and to thicken my skin. And early on, we used to make, I mean, before I was the executive director, they used to make folks do the entire project and then get the project. Do you understand what I'm saying? Freaking. So, I was able to start early on. We got 70. I think we did 30%, and then it was, now we're at 60%, which is better. But, then we're going to be at 80%. Then we're going to just trust them. But we have to have, and then we and the reviewers, it's like there's so much wisdom on the ground. And the nonprofits we serve, for me, it's all about mutuality. Nonprofits we serve want to report how many LGBTQ plus businesses they're serving. They want to do that. That's not onerous. It's just that the method that they have to have the machinery, the infrastructure to do it. So anyway, it's not easy.
I agree, especially if you're new in a space. See, from my experience, I think it is very, very hard when your voice needs to be knocked down or because you're not allowed to speak. And what I try, two things that I do for myself and my ambition is talking to them. What's been successful, what's moving forward, so that on days when you're like, I just got to pick up on it. You can go back and be like, yeah, but progress is pretty late. Right. That's fundamental life. Right. Moving forward is progress. Don't skip that. Yeah. And then two, when you're up in wide field, I am a white woman. Right.
This is my job.
I can walk around like a whole bunch of other white women and just keep on my merry way. I have a whole lot of reasons in my soul and in my community, in my world, like do this work with why it's important. Look at where you're from and where you're going and why you're doing it. It's cue right back up to the spirit again.
It's true, and I want to get after this kind of white savior thing because it's not about me. It's for me. It's about elevating the voices of the folks that this money has been served because when they hear these stories, it's game changing. But that translation has to happen, and disrupting has to be. Okay, go ahead. Right.
But I do question a lot of times, how good are we at bringing our supporters along on that journey rather than defaulting to a report back system that is already in the inequity? Because what we're trained to do as part of good practice is you're just supposed to thank, report. Well, that's a subservient model. Instead of inviting them to go with us as we change our value system, our narrative, and our system, and then they would have a place and something that they could be doing as part of it, becoming allies themselves. But instead, we still like doing the same practices, but expecting them to be there when we get there to where we're at. I don't know if there's anyone else I've been talking to. I have an idea. I'll just say if you can do the search, I mean, there's online, the library has search, if you can search and find alignment, like what you do is in alignment with what the funder does, it's golden. And that's the hardest, I think to me, that's the hardest thing. And if that funder isn't willing to have that first level conversation, chuck it. Because if they're just online, they don't want to, like, that's just my thing. And then the other part is that, like, if you're not in touch with your policymaker, every single one of you needs to talk to your legislator in the House and the Senate in Olympia. Like, you hear what I'm saying? Because if you're not connected with your association that may be doing some policy work, then your legislator needs to know what you do, the value of what you do, and what you need to change. Because we have to build our civic muscle, our advocacy muscles, because the system is not going to change unless we are affecting policy change. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. But, like, if you come to me and you don't do business technical assistance, like, I'm going to love what you do, and I'm going to connect you with the folks I know
But the best, most wonderful thing is like a baby nursing next to the mama. And mama needs that baby worse than the baby needs the mama. You know what I'm saying? But it has to have that alignment. Maybe that wasn't the best. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm willing to talk to you.
I think that's a good place to end our time. Bathroom is
Really, it's a pleasure. If you want to continue talking to each other, you can. We have this entire patio here. It is the lunch is what's next. There are lunches for you downstairs. You can eat up here if you'd like to stay outside. Anyway, this is the formal end of this, but you can continue to meet together and talk. And thank you all so much for doing this session.
And please remember, like, you change this for a camel, put them to be on your head. Okay, great. Oh, it's so hard. It's very hard, and it's you are lucky. And you were both, like, of course, you were both yeah. Please have it sent to me.